Okay, in this video, I'm still going to be in Adobe Illustrator, but I wanted to talk about, if you let's take a look at this wooden sign that I already made. If you look closely at the lion here, in comparison to this kind of tapestry design in the background, you'll notice that this is a little bit more faint, but the lion here has a distinct outline. It pops a little bit more. It's a little bit darker along the outline of the lion. And the way that I accomplish that, same thing with the letters here on the top and bottom. The way that I accomplish that, I don't know if I'm using the right terminology, but I call it like a vector cut outline. Pretty much what I'm doing is I'm creating a red path along the outline of the lion, and in my engraver settings, red means cut, but this material is so thick that I'm not going to be able to cut through it, but it does make this really defined outer outline of wherever I add that red path to. So I'm going to show you how to do that with this sign, and here's the actual, if you want to take a closer look, if I hold Alt and zoom in, if I zoom in along the edges, you'll see really close there is an outline of red. And I'm going to show you how to set that up in Adobe Illustrator, so in case you ever did want to do that, you could. You could use this same technique for cutting if you were using like a thinner, maybe like 1/8 inch ply, and you could actually cut through using this technique as well. But for my sign here, again, I'm just using it to make this part of the image pop a little bit more. So how do I do that? Let's just say, you got your graphic, you've decided that you want to kind of make that part of the image pop a little bit more. And a quick tip, I found this to work better with the softer woods like the pine, but with the oak, sometimes it doesn't look as nice. So another quick tip is to always run like a little test run maybe on a piece of scrap wood that you have. If you're going to be engraving on oak, then maybe run a quick little test on the oak before, you run your final design. But let's talk about how to maybe outline, all the different parts of the Steelman here with that red vector cut, like outline that I call it. So I'm going to double click into my object, and then I simply just click on maybe, let's say, its head here. And then I can add a stroke, which is this one. Now in Illustrator, you need to make sure that you are using RGB. For me, my laser cutter recognizes RGB, so I need a red RGB, not this CMYK. So I need to make a new swatch using RGB. And I'm sure there's a simpler way of doing this, but I haven't figured it out yet. So if you do know a better way of doing this, I would appreciate any comments underneath the video. That would be great. But the way that I do it is I go to this folder here and I make a new color group. Now since I'm doing just specifically red, I'm going to call it red. Then say OK. It creates this new color group. I'm going to double click on this swatch here, which is black right now. And I don't want my color mode to be grayscale. I want it to be RGB. So I change the color mode. And I want this, my laser cutter specifically, the red it's looking for is 255. 00 is the one that works best for me. So I'm going to say OK. And then now I have that option as a color swatch in the stroke area. So I'm going to click on that. You'll notice that it added the stroke there. But the problem is it's super thick. And the value here is 1 point. The Trotec laser cutter specifically works best and will recognize that cut if the point is set to 0.025. So it's very small, and you can barely even see it if you notice. So you may have to like zoom in, and once you get really close, you can see that it's there. It's just it's not showing up as much. So what you could do to make your life easy is just drag a box around everything. Again, add the stroke and do exactly what we just did if you wanted everything to have that nice outline. But I'm not going to do this because, again, I'm doing oak. So I don't want it. I found that for me, it doesn't look that good when I add this technique to the oak. But if you're using pine or something, or you just want to test it out, I highly recommend testing it out. Go ahead and add the outline stroke with the red to all of that. And you can also do it with the letters. If you wanted to do text, if you wanted that to pop, you could do the same technique, adding the stroke with that with 0.025 on the outline of your graphic. So that's just one little caveat, a little technique, a little tip and trick that I've learned. Sometimes it'll help, like I've shown you here, to make that part of the image pop a little bit more out of the with the image it's overlaid on.